Cam Jordan is back for year 15. The Saints have picked up the tight end, and two former players who used to play in New Orleans are back with the team. John Hendricks of Athlon Sports, Second and Saints, coming to break all that down right now. So, again, it's been a really interesting path for the Saints, right? I think a lot of people were under the assumption that they could blow this thing up. Things were going to massively change with Kellen Moore coming in, or just a lot of uncertainty with the head coach position. Look, this is what I will say about Cam Jordan returning for year 15. We have talked about it, Ross and I, on this show for months, trying to tell you guys about the thought process here with the Saints team. And again, I'm not going to tell you that it's the right way of thinking or anything along that lines, but what I've been saying is they have this idea, since they want to compete, that presumably this is the last year they're going to have Tyron, Cam, and Demario all together to be able to do that. And so I think this is a big reason why you see all three of them back. I mean, it was always said that Tyron, could not possibly, that was shot down really quickly by Tyron himself. We knew Demario was going to be back. And then Cam, as far as he goes, he wanted to keep playing. Like, he had no intentions of retiring. Same thing with Tyron Matthew. It was just a matter of his salary cap hit. He couldn't play at that tag, and everybody understood that and knew that. Now, we don't have the terms of the rework deal, but again, with Cam Jordan, he's really excited. He's really fiery, and it's rare in the NFL that you see one player stick with one franchise for as long as Cam has, and going to year 15. And it's very well probably his last season. Could very well be Tyron's last season. Demario still wants to play, and as long as he continues playing at a high level, he might still be playing after this season, and then might be last man standing. But we know Cam Jordan is the team's all-time, franchise leading sack artist, if you will. He passed Ricky Jackson when he sacked Gardner Minshew against the Eagles that time. And so, and his journey this year was really bizarre, right? Like, he seemed like he was going to have a pretty good role. Then he got used for a handful of snaps, then no snaps really. And then everything kind of fell out at the bottom against Carolina. I mean, hopefully you saw that viral video of him just being so dejected and frustrated after that loss. And of course, that's what ended up getting Dennis Allen fired, but he played in 10 snaps. And then all of a sudden, Darren Rizzi comes in. They figure out, Todd Granum's not the answer too later, but, with Brian Young kind of helping guide some things, Cam Jordan kind of looked like the player of old. Now, there's a lot that needs to be fixed on the Saints defense, right? Let's not kid ourselves. They got to finish plays. They got to get after the quarterback. They got to be much better against the run. They were 31st in the league last year. There's a lot of categories statistically that the Saints defense has to get better at and be the team's bread and butter. Now, I think they can do pretty well on offense, but can the defense kind of change the narrative that they've had for the past couple of seasons? And so this scheme swap to a 3-4 or whatever they're going to play. I mean, again, we label it again like a base 3-4, base 3-3. Where Cam Jordan fits in, we'll see, right? Like, now they have an edge coach in Jay Rogers, who's going to be dedicated to just that particular group. And Ross and I talked about kind of liking the fact that they have certain coaches for specific positions that they just haven't had in the past. And so, again, will Cam Jordan play 50, 60 snaps a game? Probably not. Is it more like 20 to 30, maybe upside of 40 in some aspects in games? Possibly. It remains to be seen. But, Chase Young and Carl Granderson are probably going to be your two primary pass rushers. Obviously, they picked up Devon Godshaw for that nose tackle spot. They brought back Nathan Shepard on a 1-year contract. Well, Nathan Shepard was with the team. They gave him a 1-year contract extension. They reworked Colin Saunders a little bit, and he's going to be there as well. So, again, kind of like we have said, and kind of like what people have said, they are running this thing back a good bit, but with different coaches, and expecting that changes a lot of things. And what I will say is the coaching staff, two of the things that Kellen Moore has talked about is the communication and the teaching of the game. That's the two things he loves about this coaching staff, and that's what he stands for. You look at last year, the debacle, you didn't have communication and you had disarray. I mean, it was just one of those things where I'm not saying you put this coaching staff right now with the Saints team last year and they're 10-7, or they're in the playoffs, they're competing with Philly, all this other stuff. I'm not saying that at all. I mean, it does, hindsight's 2020. It does kind of go into that Marvel what if If that was the case last year, what could have been the possibilities if they didn't get injured so much, all this other stuff. But, you know, not surprised Cam Jordan's back. We've been telling you that for months, that that was going to be the play. And this is what the thought process was. So that's one move for the Saints. They have three other ones that we need to talk about, and, you know, probably relatively quickly on some of them, but bringing in Jack Stoll, tight end, more of a run blocker, special teams guy. He was with the Eagles last year, obviously getting a Super Bowl ring, Kellen Moore, familiarity, all that good stuff. And look, they re-signed Juwan Johnson. We don't know about the future of the immediate future for Foster Moreau. Again, he had suffered that brutal injury at the end of the year. And so, again, he's in the rehab process, all that stuff. He's going to try to get back on the field obviously as quickly as he can, but, you know, that's a little bit uncertain. And then Taysom Hill, his injuries a lot more significant. Again, they haven't touched his contract. So it's going to depend on the rehab process. And again, if you haven't read my notes on Athlon Sports about the combine or have heard us talk about it, go back and check some of that stuff out, because this is really not new information, what we're telling you. But you know, they need tight ends, right? It was Dallin Holker, and they didn't use Dallin Holker. I mean, that was kind of a bizarre thing, is that they were so high on Dallin Holker. They bring him in. He makes the team as undrafted rookie. He has kind of the injuries early on. That was kind of what slowed him down a little bit. And then it was time where, you know, he's in the lineup and all he's doing is he's in there for a substitute, right? Like when there's a pre-snap, when, you know, when you guys were in a commercial break or whatever, Dallin Holker was there when the Saints were ready to take the offense or the field on offense. And then as soon as they're running a play, he's trotting right back off. So it's just kind of weird how they used him, and hopefully they can get more maximize more of his talent under Chase Hazlitt, but we'll see. Right. But tight end is an area that they need help. Jack Stoll is a blocker, special teams guy, can catch whenever you kind of need. But again, trench work, this is probably going to be a run heavy team somewhat, but of course they are still going to pass the ball, but you want to be able to establish the run on offense. Stoll can help with that. Now, two players that they brought back who have been in New Orleans before. We'll start with Isaac Yiadom, cornerback. He was with the 49ers last year, but he comes back to New Orleans on a 3-year deal, $9 million, worth up to $10.5 million, gets $4.86 million in guaranteed money. That's not a bad deal. I mean, look, Isaac Yiadom, core special teamer, extremely important, pivotal special teamer. Let's just put it that way. I mean, he's going to end up being your gunner, most likely, maybe be your jammer primarily, and then he's going to play on kickoff team, all this other stuff. Phil Galliano is very familiar with him. He's definitely somebody that excels on special teams, but everybody remembers he did start for the Saints when they had to play the Packers. He handled himself pretty well, so he can play in a defense. There's some familiarity there, obviously, with the player, not just, you know, from what the Saints had, but with the new coaching staff as well. And so, again, you look at them losing Paulson Adebo to the Giants. Presumably, what we're looking at right now is you have Alontae Taylor, Kool-Aid McKinstry. Their spots are just not known, right? And you also have Rico Payton. Now you bring in Ike Yiadom. They still can draft. You still have some players you're going to bring in here, right? And so, again, you have to build out a 90-man roster. Yiadom is somebody who can work in the system and the rotation. And obviously, I think he has upside. But, you know, is he going to end up starting for this team? I don't know. I mean, it depends on training camp. It depends on what their vision is with Alontae Taylor. I think it depends on what their vision is with Kool-Aid McKinstry. Is he outside? Is he in the slot? Is Alontae that guy? I think those are things we just got to figure out, right? And so you look at that, it's a relatively low-risk deal. Stalls was a 1-year deal, just to rewind there, just to touch on that. And then the other player they brought it back was Will Clapp. And, you know, everybody remembers Will Clapp, LSU guy, more of the jumbo guy under when Sean Payton was here. They used him a lot, jumbo extra offensive lineman. And so, look, he's a guy that can kick inside. Is he going to be your starting left guard? I don't know about that, but I do feel good about him on the reserve depth, a little bit better about some of him than I have about some of the other players that they've had in the past. Now, a lot can still change. Clapp is going to be on special teams. He's probably going to be in there to be able to fill in a pinch. He was with the Bills last season. So, again, and he was with the Chargers previously before that. So, again, Brendan Nugent, some of those guys that you understand the assignment, I guess, if you will. It's not really a surprise that a lot of these players will reunite or come back, and then it's kind of like a no dunk or no brainer slam dunk type situation. So real interesting. Saints active, but again, it wasn't necessarily like we said, they were going to be active in free agency, but necessarily wasn't going to be like super splash. Now, Justin Reed, that signing is kind of a big splash. They wanted to keep and prioritize somebody keeping their own. They're going to bring in more players, obviously, as they fill out some of their needs. Marquez Valdez Scantling went up to Seattle, reunite with Clint Kubiak. He got paid a good bit to be there. That's a little bit higher that I believe the Saints wanted to pay. But again, they need a third wide receiver option, like a legit one. So it remains to be seen who they're going to get for that role. Does somebody step up, or can they draft somebody? Because after this year, Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are both free agents, right? And Olave, you can use the 5th year option on him. They have to decide that before, I think it's May 8th, if I'm not mistaken, at least before mid-May. So we'll see how it all plays out. But that's your rundown of the Saints, some of the recent moves. We'll have plenty more. Be sure to check out Athlon Sports. All of our Saints coverage there for the written work. And also check out Ross Jackson at Locked On Saints, all of his great coverage that he brings to you daily, and all of his written coverage at louisianasports.net. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, and if you want to see the Chase Young contract extension video, that's also in here. So go check that out. We're putting all the player interviews, trying to get you a little bit more of a one-stop shop here as much as we can, but this is like a one-man, two-man operation. So I get it as much as I can and help you guys out. Thank you so much for your time and really appreciate it. John Hendricks signing out.